Hey professionals, I'm going to share with you a journey that transformed my life as a video editor. Picture this, you're skilled, you're passionate, but your bank account, it's telling a different story. What if I told you that in just 30 minutes, you can figure out if a project will leave you not just profitable, but genuinely happy? Yes, it's possible, and today I'm going to show you how. Let me take you back to my early days in video editing. I was eager, but financially clueless. My first big break into this industry was a 2-month gig where I was editing someone's course they were putting online. I worked day and night thinking this was my ticket to success. But when the dust settled, I wasn't counting thousands in profits, I was counting thousands in losses. And it didn't just hit my wallet, it struck my personal life too. I'll never forget the day that my loved ones started questioning if I hated them. They'd call me asking how I was going, and all I could muster was a tired, good. They thought I was dismissing them and pushing them away, but the truth? I was just exhausted. I was too drained to find the energy to care for the people I cared about. I didn't hate anyone, I was just barely holding myself together. This painful period was a pivotal moment for me. It propelled me to seek wisdom from several successful business owners. And from them, I was able to determine what I needed to learn to be able to choose what projects I should take on that not only paid me well, but left me better off both financially and emotionally. It was an eye-opening experience. And after gaining knowledge and refining this process for 2 years, I finally boiled my process down to its 3 core components that allow me, as a creative professional, to achieve financial success. And before we dive into the heart of today's topic, I think it's crucial to set some realistic expectations. I've been in the editing game for 12 years, but it's only in the last 3 that I transitioned into the design and professional space. This shift was the catalyst for everything I've just shared with you, and I'm being upfront about this because I believe in honesty over sensationalism. This isn't one of these videos where I promise you'll magically start raking in $10,000 a month after watching. Anyone who claims that kind of guarantee is frankly selling you a fantasy. They can't possibly understand the unique context of your life, your career stage, or the specific opportunities available to you in your environment. If you think there's anyone out there that can make these kind of lofty promises without actually understanding the context of where you're from, I'm all ears. I'd genuinely love to be proven wrong, and I'm still waiting to be. But what I am offering you today is something grounded in reality. This video aims to equip you with foundational knowledge that will empower you to make informed decisions, to know before saying yes to a project that you'll come out both profitably and happy. Alright, let's dive deeper into the heart of the discussion, understanding why you're unhappy with projects. And thankfully, understanding happiness is a simple maths equation. And I know some of you are going to go, Orson, you can't break down happiness into a maths equation. And my response to you is simply, yes you can, let me show you. Happiness is simply the maths equation of reality minus expectations equals happiness. Let me illustrate this with a couple of examples. Imagine you go to this highly recommended gourmet restaurant. You're expecting an extraordinary culinary experience to your palate, but what you get is just good. It's not great, it's good. Your high expectations aren't fully met, and despite the food being good, you're left feeling underwhelmed. Now, picture a different scenario. You're having a hectic day and you grab a quick meal from McDonald's. You expect nothing fancy, just a 6-piece chicken McNugget meal. But when you open that box, you find 7 nuggets instead of 6. Despite the nuggets objectively not being good as the restaurant dish, they've brought you more happiness because they exceeded your expectations while the restaurant dish did not. Let's relate this back to our work as video editors or creatives. You take on a project expecting to make $1,000 a week, but it ends up costing more, taking longer than you expected, and you only end up making $500 a week. Here, your expectations are higher than reality, leading to disappointment and unhappiness, and more often than not, you end up working overtime to get this done, which leads us to a very unsustainable lifestyle. So how do we solve this happiness equation as professional editors? We could lower our expectations to $500 a week, but that's just setting ourselves up for not making as much as we desire or need, leaving us broke and miserable. On the other hand, we could simply try changing our reality. But if it was as easy as that, we would just be doing it and we all would not be watching this video. No one can change your reality but you. But there is a solution between this, and the solution I found lies in accurately and realistically measuring our expectations for each project, because it affects everything else. For example, if we accurately measure a project and we know we're going to end up worse off, we'll just say no. And if we know we're going to end up better off when the project's done, we'll just say yes. So it's not about going all woo, woo, hoo, hoo, and changing our beliefs and mindsets and saying we are worth this or we are worth that. It's just about accurately seeing where we're going to end up once everything's done, so we can make a decision that's best for us. So we're going to run through a make-believe video project and break it down to 3 numbers to show you exactly how I set my expectations for a video project. So let's say a client offers us $10,000 to help record roughly 20 raw hours of footage and then edit that into a course with 5 hours of final video material to deliver. Let's just say it's a basic edit, a few motion graphics, nothing extreme. Now, I'm going to ask you one question. Do you think this project is going to be worth it or not when we're done? Someone offered you $10,000 for a video project where you had to edit 20 hours of raw footage into 5 hours of course content. Is $10,000 enough to make you happy and profitable by the end? Pause now and write your answer either on your phone or a notepad. I'll wait for some time. Great, now I really do hope you play along as it will help this video pay off in the end. And you could be feeling anything from excited as shit to not interested to a lot of hesitancy because you still have questions. Whatever answer you may have, keep it to the side as we'll now break this project down and see if your current expectations are accurate to what the project finally delivers. And the first number when figuring out any project is its cost, because we can't know if we're going to be making money by the end if we don't know how much it's going to cost us to make it in the first place. But it's way more complicated to calculate than this is the cost of a project because there are so many things we need to factor in, such as 1, you are a cost. To hire your talent would cost money, so we need to measure this and not confuse it with profits, which we will discuss later. 2, direct costs. How you measure direct costs directly affects revenue and what I like to call real revenue. 3, operating expenses. Operating expenses gets confusing to associate to a project, which is what leads most creative people to spend time working on their projects only to see the money hasn't gone up in their bank accounts by the end, it's gone down once they finish. So we got to figure out where this mysterious money is going, and it's usually in the operating expenses. So let me show you how I'm going to put all this together to come up with the costs of a project. So we start with our $10,000 project. We call this revenue. First, what I do is minus the direct costs from the revenue. Direct costs is anything you need to buy to complete a project that you wouldn't buy if the project was not going ahead. So specific templates just for this project, props for the shoot, driving to locations, you got to get that fuel somewhere. And let's just say the total direct costs for this project at the end of the day is $1,000. And this will leave us with what I like to call real revenue, or your bankers and accountants call gross profit. But this isn't profit. Do not let bankers and accountants use their fancy words to get you excited about this number. It's just gross profit. It's not real profit. Moving on to a harder number to calculate is operating expenses. While direct costs are directly related to the project, operating expenses are not. So these are the expenses you have to pay to keep your company running whether or not the project goes ahead. For instance, you're always paying for that software subscription. You're going to be upgrading that computer 3 years down the line, whether or not you get this project now. And it's hard to know how much money you should put aside from a project to cover your company's operating expenses. For example, how much money from this course, which is $10,000, are we taking away to put aside to cover our operating expenses? We've got this computer, we've got this rent, how much? Now, what makes this difficult is it is actually a business by business specific how you calculate this. And that's why I do offer one-on-one calls. You can find them in the description below. But for now, let's just use what I've historically seen video production companies put aside from projects to cover operating expenses, which is 30% of real revenue. And then finally, the last cost we need to figure out is how much you're paying yourself as an employee. Now, this gets wildly complicated as if you talk to various different businesses, even in the same industry, they'll say anything from, 20% of a project's cost is operating expenses, and it cannot be more than that, and that includes the employees. Sometimes it can be all the way up to saying 50% of a project is going towards the employees. It's really difficult to tell, but when you're starting in a small business and you're doing all the works, wearing all the hats, it's easy to assume that you're going to be paying yourself 50% of this project as an employee. So in this case, we're going to be putting down $4,500 to pay yourself. Now, this leaves us with $1,500, and we still have 2 other numbers to calculate. And so finally we come up to number 2, which is risk, or what I commonly like to refer to in the creative industry, the fuck up budget. And this is simply the money we don't plan to spend, but put aside for when things go wrong. And again, this is why we call it the F up, because as creative people, we don't think of risks. We don't think of risk. We don't think, oh, there's a risk that Dan, the cameraman's gonna go out and mess up the recording. We have to do a reshoot. We go, Dan fucked up. Now we've got to go do a reshoot, and that's going to cost us money. So how much money should you put aside for F-ups? Well, let's go through a few ranges that I've personally found to be pretty useful. 15% is my normal risk. If I'm working with someone, they seem like an okay person, and it's a pretty normal project, 15% is the way to go. Let's say that this person's actually a repeat client and this is a standard service I've done several times. I know how this is going to operate. I know how the client's like. I'll make that as low as 5%. Now, let's say someone comes up to me and they go, we want to create this creative thing that no one's ever done before. Well, unfortunately, creativity is really risky. We have to put a lot of things out there to see if they work. So I like to throw it all the way up to 100%. So if you can't find an example video that the client wants to get done, or you can't get clear on the vision, 100% absolute minimum, probably even more if you can't get clear on the vision. So next we have the a-hole tax, which is 150%. And you might be asking, well, what constitutes an a-hole? An a-hole is someone that I find that tries to emotionally or intelligently manipulate you to get something done that's less than desirable for yourself. These are what you would consider quite narcissistic traits. And a narcissist isn't someone that like demeans you and makes you feel worthless. No, they make you feel so valuable and credible. They get you to believe you can get the project done despite your better judgment. They'll usually say something along the lines of, oh, you're so creative, or I believe you can figure it out. That is manipulative behavior, and if you come across that, I immediately tack on 150%, which means that this is no longer a $10,000 project, it's a $25,000 project, and I'm still doing the exact same work, I'm just putting $15,000 aside, ready so that I can handle this person's attitude. There are a myriad of other reasons I'm sure you can think of. So if you've got any reasons that you think someone could be put under the a-hole tax, I'd love to see them in the comments below. Let's get a whole list going. But let's just say that this course we're editing, the person seems normal. It's a pretty standard course project. So let's put the risk at 15%, which is $1,350 of the real revenue. So this leaves us with a total of $150 for our final number, which is profit. And profit is the winning number we want. That's the one where we go, woo, because this is the money you make for taking on all the pressure of this project. You took a look at the costs. You figured out what it's going to take to get it done. You organized the team to make it happen. Profit is your reward for handling something someone else didn't want to handle. And if that project flops, you may end up losing money instead of making a profit. So all of this combined is your reward as a business owner. And whether $150 of profit on this project is worth it is a question that's up to you. See, profit's again, another wild number. If you look on the NASDAQ or any of the stock exchanges, you'll find that the average video production company makes about 2% profit. But the second you make it a design agency, it goes all the way up to 20% project. So even the way you call yourself can change whether you'd find this project acceptable. So even in fact there, I don't actually consider myself a video production agency, despite the fact that I work on YouTube videos. I call myself a design agency because I help people design and create very profitable YouTube channels. Video just seems to be one of the tools to get the job done. So generally speaking, profit's a number that you always want to be increasing. The costs that you pay yourself as an employee and the risk you take on, they're all just the means to the end of what matters, which is profit. And you always want to be figuring out, how do I make this number higher? Can I reduce my costs? Can I reduce my risk? Can I increase the total price that I sell it at? By understanding projects and these three numbers, you are able to more clearly and accurately figure out if a project is worth taking on, because ultimately whether you're happy at the end of the day or not is whether you've made enough profit for all the pressure you've accepted. So this is probably a good point to look back at what you originally thought about that $10,000 and see, has your perception changed? If it has, I'd also love to hear about that in the comments, because I'd love to see all of us becoming profitable creative professionals. And finally, I just want to say I've really enjoyed creating this video. Together, we can all become highly valuable, profitable professionals and live those lives we truly want. This has been such an honor to make this video for all of you. I really hope you enjoyed it. It's something totally out of my comfort zone. And until next time, I'll catch you around. Thank you all so much.